Robert Downey Jr. made it very clear today his friendship with Mel Gibson is far more important than becoming a part of the media firestorm that has surrounded Mel throughout all of his drama.
Mel Gibson has been on top of Hollywood and dragged through its darkest corners. From winning Oscars for Braveheart to being blacklisted after his infamous DUI scandal, he's seen it all. But here's the kicker. Gibson didn't just survive Hollywood's cancel culture. He came back swinging, taking direct aim at the hypocrisy of the industry's woke elite. With everything he's been through, how does he keep returning even stronger than ever?
I made a joke about Mel Gibson getting a bit drunk and saying a few unsavory things.
In 2016, when Hollywood had long since canceled Mel Gibson, most people thought his career was over for good. After the whole 2006 DUI scandal and his infamous anti-Semitic remarks, Gibson was blacklisted. It wasn't just the media going after him, but the film industry itself, directors, producers, studios, everyone wanted nothing to do with him. Mel was left to navigate the wreckage of his career, and for a while he disappeared from the limelight, popping up in smaller roles here and there. It looked like Hollywood had successfully shut the door on one of its biggest stars.
What do you think when people say, I won't see that, it's a Mel Gibson movie?
I was on live television one time, and Anderson Cooper sort of got it. People actually booed when the credits on your film came up at the beginning of the movie.
But Mel wasn't finished. He made his grand comeback with Hacksaw Ridge in 2016. Not only did he direct the film, but it became a massive success, earning critical acclaim and multiple Academy Award nominations. Hacksaw Ridge told the true story of Desmond Dawes, a World War II medic who refused to carry a weapon but still managed to save countless lives. It was gripping, powerful, and exactly what Hollywood didn't expect, a successful movie from the man they tried to cancel. The film earned over $180 million at the box office and showed the world that Gibson still had his directorial magic even after being out of the game for years. What's interesting is that Mel didn't just slide back into Hollywood's good graces quietly. He came back louder, more unfiltered, and bolder than ever. After all the attempts to silence him, Gibson was done playing by Hollywood's unwritten rules. He began speaking out against the hypocrisy he saw in the industry, aiming at the woke culture that dominates today. In interviews, he talked about how Hollywood is filled with people who pretend to care about justice and fairness, but they're the first to cancel anyone who doesn't toe the line. For Mel, surviving Hollywood's cancel culture wasn't just about making movies. It was about calling out the absurdity of it all, exposing the industry's double standards, and showing that real success doesn't come from bending the knee to cultural trends. The Passion of the Christ, that's where the real Hollywood battle began for Mel Gibson. Back in 2004, when he released the film, the backlash was immediate and fierce. The movie was about the last 12 hours of Jesus Christ's life, and it was brutal, graphic, and unapologetic in its deception of the crucifixion. Hollywood didn't like it. They didn't just dislike it, they actively fought against it. The film faced accusations of being anti-Semitic, with critics saying it placed the blame for Christ's death on Jewish people. The controversy was everywhere, and suddenly no major studio wanted to touch the film. Mel Gibson wasn't about to let Hollywood's fear of controversy stop him, though. Instead of backing down, he financed The Passion of the Christ out of pocket, taking a massive risk. No one in the industry believed the movie would succeed. They thought it was too controversial, too graphic, too religious. But guess what? It grossed over $612 million worldwide, making it one of the highest grossing R-rated films of all time. Hollywood was dead wrong. This wasn't just a financial win for Mel, it was a direct blow to the Hollywood establishment. They tried to shut him down, to bury the movie, but the audience proved them wrong. Mel's willingness to take on The Passion of the Christ, despite the backlash, showed his defiance of Hollywood's woke, politically correct culture even back then. He rejected the industry's attempts to control the narrative, refusing to water down his film to fit their expectations.
But, you know, as always, I don't think it's the institution that's at fault. I think it's a lot of the people that get in it. And, you know, institution's good or as bad as the people in it running it, you know. So Yeah, it's having a bit of a rugged time at the moment.
Mel Gibson has never been shy about calling out the hypocrisy he sees in Hollywood, and his critique of the industry's social contract hits hard. According to Gibson, there's this unspoken set of rules in Hollywood where everyone's expected to act a certain way, say the right things, and keep their head down when the big players make their moves. It's like a silent agreement that if you want to survive in the industry, you need to play nice even when you're getting screwed over by the very people you thought had your back. Mel's been around long enough to know the game, and he's been burned by it too many times to care about the following rules anymore.
This is just a very personal story about a guy named Stuart Long who just kind of a guy. He was a good boxer, and he was kind of a wild boy, but
in interviews, Gibson has openly expressed his frustration with the Hollywood elites to the people who project this false sense of moral superiority while making deals behind closed doors that reek of double standards. He's said that the industry is full of people who will shake your hand one minute and stab you in the back the next, all the while maintaining their self-righteous facade. He's especially critical of how stars are focused to conform to these unwritten rules, whether it's about politics, social issues, or simply keeping quiet on controversial topics. If you don't follow along, you get canceled. If you speak out, you're blacklisted. Gibson has been on the receiving end of that treatment, and he knows firsthand how the system works. Despite being ostracized by Hollywood after his 2006 DUI incident, Mel bounced back, and that's what makes his story so compelling. The very system that tried to cancel him is the one he's now openly criticizing, and rather than shy away from the spotlight, he uses his platform to expose what he sees as the industry's deep-rooted hypocrisy. Gibson's ability to come back time and time again shows that he's not just surviving, he's thriving. He doesn't bend to pressure of Hollywood's woke culture, and in today's world, that kind of defiance is rare. While other stars cave in to avoid controversy, Mel stands firm, calling out the hypocrisy for what it is. If there's one thing that sets Mel Gibson apart from the rest of Hollywood, it's his unapologetic attitude towards public humiliation. After years of being dragged through the mud, whether for his drunken outburst in 2016 or his controversies, Gibson simply stopped caring. He's said as much in interviews, stating that he's had more than enough public shame to last a lifetime and that he's not afraid of it anymore. "I don't give a bleep anymore," he bluntly stated, and you can believe him when he says it. The DUI scandal was a turning point for Mel. At the time, it looked like his career was over. The media went after him, Hollywood distanced itself, and he was left to face the consequences alone. But instead of letting the humiliation break him, Mel used it as a way to harden himself against the public's opinion. Years of shame and isolation turned him into someone who no longer fears what people think. That's not something you see much of these days, especially in the modern woke era, where public criticism is enough to send most stars running to apologize for even the smallest misstep.
it's being able to accept stuff.
The tenets of Mel Gibson's life, is it prayer? Is it meditation? Is it exercise? You remain in tremendous shape.
Well, all those things are in play. I would say prayer, meditation, exercise, and
When Mel Gibson threw his support behind Sound of Freedom in 2013, it didn't take long for the controversy to swirl. The film, which dramatizes the true story of former government agent Tim Ballard's mission to rescue children from sex trafficking, touched on a topic that many in Hollywood seem reluctant to address. Child trafficking is a serious issue, but the media and Hollywood elites quickly tagged the movie as far right because of its perceived ties to conspiracy theories like QAnon. Gibson's involvement in supporting a movie that tackles such a controversial issue proves once again that he's willing to stand up against Hollywood's preferred narratives, rather than shy away from a project that critics and the woke media were quick to dismiss. Gibson backed it, showing that there's a huge audience out there that doesn't buy into Hollywood's agenda. This is a platform we've seen before with Gibson, whether it's his involvement in The Passion of the Christ or his support for Sound of Freedom. He's not afraid to back projects that make the elite uncomfortable. It's the same old story. Hollywood tries to silence anything that doesn't align with its carefully crafted worldview, and Mel Gibson is one of the few who's willing to challenge that. He thrives in this opposition, proving that the audience, regular people, are hungry for stories that don't fit the woke narrative. While the industry tries to label these films as problematic, their success tells a different story. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.